Hey guys, Kevin here at eTrailer, and today I'm going to be showing you how to install the Roadmaster Rear Anti-Sway Bar here on our 2017 Winnebago Vista Class A motorhome. So why don't you just give me kind of a general overview of how it felt to drive your motorhome prior to the steering stabilizer and the sway bars.
Okay, well, generally, anytime I was going down the highway, whether it was a truck going by or just bumps in the road, I was constantly doing this, just fighting to keep it in between the white lines. Some roads were pretty good, but some of them were really awful. And with the trucks going by, depending on what the winds were like, sometimes it was pretty hard to keep it in the lane. And there was a lot of swaying back and forth too. It was just a lot of swaying around, just leaning back and forth constantly.
Yeah, the big box kind of just getting pushed around over and over again. How do you feel making turns? Because we did go around some roundabouts, made some tighter turns through our parking lot.
That would, again, it would depend a lot on the pavement, but quite often you'd have to do a lot of correction as you were going through the turn. And also, because of the weight, you'd start leaning over and pretty uncomfortable for the passengers as we were going around turns.
You feel like this is kind of helping keep stuff inside of your trailer from flopping around as much too?
Yeah, that's probably another good benefit. I didn't even think of that one, but yeah, that's definitely going to help.
Yeah, typically a lot of the motorhomes that we pull around here, I usually, as we're pulling it through the parking lot or through the bump course, you can hear all that stuff kind of rattling around. So I figured anything we can do to kind of keep stuff from moving around inside will overall make it a safer ride.
Yeah, yep, that's a good point. Looking forward to the drive home, see how it goes. It's a lot more stable. Stays in the center, a lot easier. It's not rocking back and forth like it used to. We're up to 70 now.
So you recommend getting the Roadmaster sway bars and the steering stabilizer?
I would. I think it made a big difference here.
Our sway bar and our end links are all made of a nice solid steel construction, and they're all powder coated so that you don't have to worry about any rust or corrosion damaging the brackets or your sway bar. The polyurethane bushings are also maintenance free. You won't have to do anything. There's no getting under your motorhome and lubing it up. It's all good to go once the installation is complete. If you experience a whole lot of body roll whenever you're trying to make a turn with your motorhome, or maybe when you're up on the highway, crosswinds from trailers coming by kind of push you around on the road, kind of makes it harder to stay in your lane, and you kind of feel that you're swaying back and forth, then a rear anti-sway bar might be the right solution for you. So if you were starting to experience sway to one side, what this bar is going to do is it's going to pull down on the opposite side that's starting to kind of lift up, and it's going to pull that frame back down, keeping it nice and level. And what that's going to do is give you a nice solid base so that you don't have all that swaying when you're going down the road. As far as installation goes, this is not too complicated of a process. I definitely recommend having a second set of hands, just especially when you're lifting the sway bar up, because it is quite heavy. Other than that, it just really takes a lot of patience. It's only a couple of bolts and some brackets, so really not too hard, but just tight space under your motorhome. To begin our installation, we are going to have our vehicle sitting down, but we're going to go ahead and jack up from the frame up, so that way it's going to kind of pull our leaf spring down out of the way so that we can get to these two bolts that tie into our tie rod at the rear of our motorhome. Once we have it lifted up and we have our leaf spring down enough to where we can gain access to those, we'll go ahead and take out the bottom two. Next, we're going to take our end link bracket. It's going to be this L-shaped bracket with two tie plates hanging off the bottom of it. We're going to make sure that we have the outer side of that bracket on the outside of our frame, and we'll slip those bolts back in place. Now we can go ahead and just tighten these bolts back down. Next, we're going to go ahead and remove the bottom bolt that holds in our shock, because we are going to have to add on our bracket for our sway bar onto the front side of here. There's going to be two holes. This bottom one is being blocked right now by the bottom of that shock. So we'll go ahead and take a 1 1/8 socket and wrench, and we're going to go ahead and take that bolt out. Go ahead and pull that out, and we can just kind of pull our shock out of the way a little bit. Next, we're going to go ahead and lube up our bushings so that we can get that onto our sway bar and then get that bracketed up where our shocks are. You're going to have this little cup of green lube. Go ahead and take about half of it and just really smear that in there. I definitely recommend wearing some gloves because this is pretty sticky. Wipe off the excess on there. With that lubed up, you can go ahead and kind of split the bushing apart a bit. And we'll install that onto our sway bar on both sides. In your kit, you're going to have two different types of bolts that we're going to be putting into this bracket. On the bottom, we're going to use that black hex key style screw, and that's going to go in there, and then it's also going to have these cut down washers, and that's just to kind of give it enough room to clear that shock right there. So you got to make sure that you use this one on the bottom, because the gold one that they give you, or brass, that one's going to be just too long and it's going to interfere with that shock, and then you're not going to be able to get it back in place. So we'll go ahead, we're going to put our bolts in with one washer, and then on the other side we'll have another washer and our lock nut. With the extra set of hands, I'm going to go ahead and hold my sway bar up in place and stick some of my bolts through. If you need to, you may have to kind of slide that back and forth to get the bushing really lined up with the holes there. All right, well,
you might find a little bit of grinding bits somewhere, but where is the question?
so pretty. I mean, all right, you lining up pretty good?
Yep.
Okay. All right, now with the second set of hands, I'm going to go ahead and get my bolts in place. And then we can add on our washers and our lock nuts. Once we have these all tightened down, then we can go ahead and torque them into place. All right, now we're going to go ahead and just repeat this same process over on the other side. So on some vehicles, you will have an issue where this bolt is going to not allow your strut, or your gas strut to come back down and sit in place, just like it's doing right now. So it's blocking us from being able to reinstall that bolt that goes through here. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip this around, and we'll have that bolt head side on this side, so it's going to be a little bit smaller. And then I'm also going to take out the spacer. I've already gone ahead and done that on the other side just to kind of test out, see exactly what we needed to do to kind of make this work. And that seems to be the key to doing it. So if you run into that issue, just know that you can flip that around, even though the instructions say to put it this way. Now with our bolt flipped around, we're going to go ahead and reinstall our strut here. You have to persuade it just a bit here. Go. Then our washer and our lock nut. And then we'll go ahead and tighten that down. Next, we're going to go ahead and install our end links. The whole point of this is to get this rear sway bar as level as possible. So there's going to be a few different holes you can go into on the end links, and then there's also two different holes in our end link bracket up here. I've already gone ahead and did the other side, got it nice and level, so I'm going to go ahead and just pop my end link up in the same manner I did before. So I'm using the top hole and then the bottom hole on this side, and I feel like that gives us a nice level here with our sway bar, so we'll be good to go. We'll get those on, and then we're going to tighten them down. But when you're tightening it down, these are nylon lock nuts, so you can't go too much with it. You want to go very lightly. They have a little guide in there for you in the instructions to exactly what you should torque it to, but it's still going to be a really small number because this does have to kind of sway back and forth to get that on. And I'm just going to do them hand tight and then get them the rest of the way with my wrench. Well, I think that does it for today's installation of the Roadmaster Rear Anti-Sway Bar here in our 2017 Winnebago Vista Class A motorhome. My name's Kevin. Thanks for watching.